Welcome back to Worldview. Julianna Forlano is creator, host, and producer of the acclaimed political news parody series Absurdity Today. You can find it on DirecTV and Dish Network's Free Speech TV, or FSTV. It's part of the Young Turks Online Network, and it's also aired on WBAI Radio in New York City and the Progressive Voices Radio Network. Now, it is laugh out loud funny, and as I told Julianna before the interview, I'm a fanboy. I know it takes a lot to produce her program, so massive respect from this chair here. You can follow her on Twitter at Julianna Forlano, and remember, Julianna is spelt with 2 N's, and on the web at www.absurditytoday.com. Julianna Forlano, welcome to Worldview.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, there are so many things here I want to touch on. It's been such a target-rich absurdity environment lately with a new Jesuit Pope, CPAC, with Donald and the Newt and everybody going on. But I have to, though, start with the obvious. Where did you get the idea to do Absurdity Today, and how has it all evolved?
Well, Absurdity Today used to be called the Ironic News Report. That was, for its old-time fans, that's what it used to be called. It was a radio program that I started back. I'm a stand-up comedian. That was my background, and I took a class with a guy who used to write for Saturday Night Live, and he was like, "You're great at this." We were writing 2-liner jokes, and Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update was always my favorite part of Weekend Update. Even as a little kid, it was always my favorite part, which I find odd because I can only assume that I didn't understand anything they were saying, back when I was a child and they were doing heavy political satire. And I don't know, I just said, oh, hey, I think I would like to do this. So I started creating content for an internet radio, 2 internet radio programs. One is called Fearless Radio, which you might know. They're worldwide, and they play new and upcoming artists. And it was great. They gave me like a 2-hour show, and it was really fun for a while. And then I was on Chicago Public Radio, had this project where they were trying to get new public radio listeners, I guess because the old ones were old, dying, whatever, it's listener supported, so they need the people. So they launched this hip new, really interesting project called Vocalo, where they were putting on sort of people who would be appropriate for, maybe the younger NPR audience. It's a really good project. So it was on there on Fridays, which is great. Then we moved to New York City, and as much as I could have produced and sent it via radio, which I still do, we just moved to video, and now we're, on the net, and it's evolved. We changed the name, excuse me, from Ironic News Report to Absurdity Today, because Ironic News Report seemed to make it smaller, whereas the word Absurdity Today gives us the opportunity to show other things, go on the street, do interviews, and just talk, and not necessarily just report the news. I gotta tell you, we have a new episode coming out. It's probably today, tomorrow, about all those things you just talked about, CPAC and the Pope and all that. And I have reincorporated the idea of an ironic news report within the context of Absurdity Today, where we basically just read the ironic headlines. And it's so much easier for me. I don't have to write a punchline. All I have to do is read.
All you have to do is read what they've been up to. I mean, they certainly lived up to their billing. I mean, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio took the straw poll. I have to ask you, what was your take on this past weekend? How do you narrow it down into a broadcast?
Well, lucky for me, there's a beautiful website out there called rightwingwatch.org, and they take video at all these great places, so I don't actually have to go and incur the potential, gastrointestinal reflex disorder that I'm sure I would come up with if I went to the actual event. And I just pick the things that I think are, I don't know, just the most maybe subtle, and they need to be talked back to. So I do a couple different kinds of segments. This one's going to be a talk back where I actually play. It's kind of like watching TV with your angry old father, where he used to yell at the television when the news was on. Except I don't yell. I just
hey, you
sing.
get off my lawn, you kids, you. We're talking with Julianna Forlano, host of Absurdity Today here on Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Julianna, Marco Rubio clearly sees no difference in Hispanic markets. And, Cubans like him have automatic immigration status, whereas Mexicans, Dominicans, and others don't. Yet he's the golden boy frontrunner. How do you explain someone so patently absurd?
Well, that's an excellent question. And to add to that, I watched Marco Rubio's speech at CPAC, and he stopped and drank water in the middle. If I didn't know what CPAC stood for, I would still know that he is a conservative, because conservatives don't learn anything from history. They don't ever learn anything from history. They just repeat the same mistakes over and over. And he was like, drinking the water, the same exact thing. Does he not watch any feedback? Or it's just crazy. I mean, I can't, my family was from southern Italy, and they came over at a time, and maybe it's still like this, I'm not really sure, where if you were from this part of Italy, that part of Italy was like, ugh, and they would do the same back to you. And I remember when I went to visit, and I met the guy who was running the inn. He said, "So where is your family from?" I said, "Well, part of my family's from Naples and part is from Calabria." And he said, "Oh, so you're mixed." I'm like, mixed? I'm in the United States. I'm Italian. There is no mix.
Yeah.
But so the idea that someone in a position of power, who's supposed to be the front runner and the leader of the Hispanic Republican caucus or whatever they're trying to make him into, would have just no clue about the different rules, the feelings between the cultures, how immigration applies to the different cultures, is stunning to me. That we would. I think it's almost like ignorance is what is almost a plus, because if they don't know, we'll just put them up, and if they don't know, then they parties put people forward who don't know anything, because then they can't sort of fight back against their own party.
And then that just gets the result anyway, so it doesn't much matter. It's very strange. And of course, unlike the father, the dweeb's son Rand is now picking up where Dad left off, but without any charm or charisma. How's the GOP going to avoid shooting itself, in the foot, well, hell, in the groin, in this primary process yet again coming up in 2 years?
I don't know, and I think it's going to be fun. I really look forward to it, because they're just swirling around. And at the convention, the CPAC again, Mitt Romney, I believe, did say that we need to embrace they need to embrace people like Chris Christie, the more moderates, blah blah blah. It was like a smattering of applause, just a brief smattering.
Very polite.
Yes. Do you have a tea party where you are?
No, we have the Tories. It's even worse. So we could talk about that another time. But we have a very conservative, very old group of conservatives that run our current government, but they're about to be voted out.
Are they ignorant as well?
I'm sorry?
Are they fully ignorant? Are they
well,
funded and ignorant like our Tea
we
Party?
do. We have a couple of fringe parties here. They're called the UKIP and they're called the British National Party, but they tend to be more on the far right. They even go to the right of the Tea Party in terms of their nationalistic, anti-immigration, purify the country, get rid of anybody that's a foreigner. So it's very, very strange stuff.
Yeah, that is really something. I don't.
Yeah. But fortunately, they're in the minority. They've not taken over the entire Tory party as the Tea Party has to the Republicans.
Yes, the Tea Party is. I often liken it to the Frankenstein monster, where they created the right wing and the corporatists, the Koch brothers, and they funded. They created this beast, and now it's gone out of control. So I'm looking forward. That movie did not end well. So
no, it did not indeed. Julianna, we could go on for hours, but unfortunately our time is up today. It's been great fun. We've been speaking with Julianna Forlano of Absurdity Today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Dennis.
And you can watch Julianna's Absurdity Today show online at absurditytoday.com. And please do follow her on Twitter at Julianna Forlano. And do note that Julianna is spelt with two N's just as Dennis is with one N. So I'm apt to remind people of that. Coming up next on the program, Rebecca Gale, the Dear Abby of Capitol Hill, joins us to discuss how Democrats and Republicans can sustain a relationship even whilst working for opposing camps. You're watching Worldview with Denis Campbell. Stay right here.